everybody. This is the great Kent Williams, Mercenary Tao.
I love being called the great Kent Williams. Thank you. What an intro.
So, who was your favorite to voice out of your character lineup on Dragon Ball? Dragon Ball Z, GT, Z?
That show in particular. Okay, so everything is this going to be DBZ centric, correct?
Well, not everything. I'm going to ask about
Okay.
other.
All right, good.
I won't skip George.
My first character was my first character I actually auditioned for. I auditioned for Dr. Gero and another character, and I can't remember his name, but I feel like I made better with Dr. Gero. But and then we started recording, and then I got my head stepped on and I died, and I thought that was the end of me too. But then more kept happening. There were more characters that came along. So I feel like, I don't know, as much as I really enjoy Supreme Kai because his voice is so calm and soothing, and Gero was just like a throat scratcher. He's still a little bit hard to do. I just feel like I should go with Gero. That was the first big my foray into dubbing.
Oh yeah, he's a classic. My favorite personally is Mercenary Tao, obviously.
Really? Why so? You
I
say
don't know.
Obviously. What do you mean obviously?
Well, I remember when I was making all your edits, Tao was the first one I did, so you were like, "That's really good."
And just and kind of nasal voice.
Oh yeah,
came through.
I just my first actual appearance of Tao wasn't in Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z. It was in the movie Mystical Adventure, and he got the best line out of that movie where he's like, "I award these guys with pain and I demand they turn the device over immediately."
You got it down. Oh my gosh. That nasal kind of snidely whiplash kind of quality to it.
I just love his attitude, and he had some of the best lines, like, "He should have watched his tongue and mine."
Exactly. I love that. I mean, the fact that I got to play a character who was able to kill someone else with his tongue.
I don't think anybody would want to French kiss Mercenary Tao.
No. Especially with that shirt, "Kill you." I mean, can't get past it.
I actually have that shirt. I bought it. It doesn't fit, but I have it hanging in my closet.
And you've seen, like, now that we had a little bit of time talking before you hit record, you see my whole anime realm here in my home studio is just super duper limited.
Mine, well, is it takes up 2 shelves.
Of course, I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does.
So, what did you think of George from Yu Yu Hakusho? You had to love him.
Well, that was the second property that we got at Funimation, because it was just everything started out, everything DBZ, Dragon Ball Z or Dragon Ball. That was it, and then the characters within that that universe, that universe at the time. But then Yu Yu Hakusho came along, and again, it was such a small community of actors that were hired in that we were all able to play multiple roles, or at least audition for other roles within the same show. And of course, that doesn't really happen that much anymore. Very little, unless it's One Piece, where there's so many actors necessary and only so many men in the Dallas-Fort Worth area that we've
millions of episodes.
Roles. But George Satame, and you need to call him George. I mean, so many people only know him as Blue Ogre, but that was definitely a favorite.
I was going to say, George and the narrator, but they're the same person because it shows at the very end of the episode.
But not everybody knew that right from the get-go. I don't even know what to tell you, like when that came about. Was it toward the end of the whole series?
Yeah, it was the last episode. It showed him narrating.
Oh, that's so funny. I just couldn't. I mean, let's see. Of all the years that Funimation has existed, I mean, all the 20-somethings are now in their 40s, I guess. getting close to it. It's I mean, so many people have grown up with fun in Funimation. That was when we departed from Chris Sabat directing us to then it was Justin Cook, who had started out as an engineer, and he became our director. And and there were some other directors like John Bergmeyer, as Tian. He would direct me in some Yu Yu Hakusho episodes. So it was kind of when people started to branch out and do other things, and there was something. There's writing to do now. It's just kind of Funimation learning its way forward, if that makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
as a business, because it's so very different now. It's such a big animal, and at the time it was just very, very small.
Well, I think a lot of people really love the first dubbed Dragon Ball Z, even though it's kind of cheesy with the extra added dialogues and stuff. But me
Like
personally,
the soap opera kind of feel like,
yeah.
you get half of the episode, for the previous episode in the new episode.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, oh my gosh. So all the repeats, all the line pulls from the previous episode to the new one. Yeah.
I mean, what did you think of the original dub when you started out? Do you like it, or did you like the Kai dub better?
Well, I like the flow of the Kai dub. It's hard to say which I liked better, because one allowed more actor hours to record. Because when we recorded it originally, we were using paper scripts, which of course now we have a digital script on a screen, and it scrolls vertically. Before, if they had a rewrite, there were always rewrites. Then you had to wait for somebody to go to the copy machine to print off the new script, to then bring it in to review. And then you had to use the reel-to-reel to rewind the actual tape that we were recording on, because it was before they used QuickTimes. It was just a lot of older equipment and older technique before, it got quicker and smarter. I don't know. I feel like there was at least a good year of dubbing, in that kind of slow, laborious process. But for an actor, you got to really luxuriate.
I kind of like the extra added scenes. Me
Do you?
personally, I like I know it's terrible to say it, but I like some of Sabat's added in stuff like cat
Sabat.
loves food.
Sabat?
Sabat?
Chris Sabat?
Yeah.
I know. Weird name. But if you think like I think some people call him Black Sabbath,
I get his I have a
people get his name
pronunciation
wrong
problem.
all the time.
Well, I like some of Sabat's added dialogue, even though he says he hates it now. I still like irritate him on Twitter with it. I know that Team 4-Star does too. Like cat loves food, yeah. And then there is the Piccolo line after he absorbs Nail, and he's like, "I can do it." I edited a video and I put Rob Schneider under it, and it says, "You can do it."
That's hilarious.
And he's like, "Oh God," he's like, "Stop showing that dub."
See, early work is always embarrassing for some reason, right?
Somewhat, yeah.
Everybody got smarter, people mature. They got smarter about how to do the work that they were doing. Those that stuck with it.
My early videos that I was doing at the beginning when I was starting them, I sounded a lot like Jeff Goldblum, so I know how he feels. I could hear it too as
A lot of the pausing, a lot of the thought.
Nowadays, I had a smarter way to do it. I just write it down on my phone and then I read it.
Scripts help. Scripting always helps.
But then there's just, I was watching some of it and I was looking over and I said, I need to delete some of these. The dialogue here is just terrible. Jeff Goldblum.
Editing, also good. Scripting and editing. Well learned, Timothy Pike.
So now, what did you think of the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood getting to play father?
I have to tell you, sometimes it feels like a gift, because I don't even remember if I auditioned, there are times that we still, receive auditions for shows. And then there's, of course, those of us who've been around for a long time, we would hope that's like, well, isn't the body of work that I've produced kind of my audition? But not necessarily. I just felt I was so grateful to get that. And, and once again, just like Yu Yu Hakusho, it's a character that is also the narrator.
Technically, yeah, he is.
But and also in when that show, with Father, I got to be all the incarnations of Father. I got to be the demon in the flask. I got to be all of those little characters where, sometimes they could go to another actor to fulfill that kind of voice. So that was great. That was great.
I always enjoyed Father. He had some of the best dialogue moments in the entire series.
You think so?
In my opinion, he did. He had some memorable lines, I thought. Like, I'm trying to think of one now that I'm on the spot.
You're better than me. I mean, just like all the lines, once they come, they go.
I think one of them was where he's first introduced, and I can't remember the character's name. Ling Yao says, this guy treats humans as if they were some kind of extermination. He goes, do you count how many ants that you step on daily? I was like, that's just awesome. That's just villainy. I love it. I'm a sucker for villains.
I love the villains. I have to say, I love the villains. I mean, I get play the villains, but then I also play, some of the mild-mannered like teachers or fathers.
Like in Soul Eater, you were the gym teacher, I think, there.
Yeah, I guess he was like, I mean, he's a pretty affable guy. He's not as a zombie.
I pretty much just thought it was George just, trying out for gym class. You know what I mean? That's how my mind used to run when I was younger. It's like, hey, it's George. He's just, he's just trying out for a new job. Koema fired him.
I guess that kind of seems that way when you're hearing, when you can tell there's a voice actor's voice. It's hard to always go through it and disguise, yourself all the time.
I think I really never could tell the difference between. I mean, I couldn't tell it was the same voice. I mean, between Mercenary Tao and Dr. Gero. It actually surprised me when I seen your name was underneath both of those credits, and I was like, oh wait, he was played by both.
Ooh, good. I'm glad you said that. Thank you.
That makes you feel better.
It does make me feel better, yeah, because you don't want to repeat yourself, but it's like those two character voices were, I mean, they're created in different parts, physically, so it should sound different. I mean, one being really, really nasal and the other not quite the same, that gruff and growly.
Dr. Gero was more of the gruff, kind of cranky
voice. He hurt. He hurt the throat.
I can only imagine. I bet he did.
The Tao is much simpler. Of course, doing Supreme Kai and Elder Kai, playing opposite myself. Before you started recording, I had mentioned that, we don't, as voice actors, we don't have the luxury of working in the booth with the other actors, so we don't get a chance like we do as stage performers to play off of one another, for instance, unless somebody has recorded before you. But, on those two characters, I'm in the scene with myself. So I would always get to record one character and then go back and record the other character. So I'd at least have something to play off of and then correct anything that we just hated.
See, I didn't even know that Supreme Kai or Elder Kai shared the same voice. So there you go.
You didn't?
No, well, I didn't at first until I played a game called Budokai Tenkaichi 3, and it showed the voice cast up when it had the character profiles. I'm like, really? Like they don't even sound that much alike.
Yeah, Gero, Tao, Supreme Kai, Elder Kai, as he's always listed in the script. And then you mentioned Lord Slug. At one time that was Metamacha.
That was you?
Turbo. Yeah, it was Metamacha. Turbo, Abachaman. Gosh, I saw a list of a breakdown of all the different little bits as well as, recurring roles that I've played in that show. It's a lot.
Now, one voice I always could pick out, and everyone tells me, my friends would all tell me, "How do you know?" It's like, it's because I actually did meet him. He probably doesn't remember. Is Kyle's voice.
The bear.
Yep, Kyle's voice I could just pick out anywhere. I was watching a series called Monster, and he voiced a couple of the characters throughout the series. And I said, "That's Kyle." And somebody was watching it with me and said, "How do you know?" And I said, "I remember because I met him at a con, and I said, 'Will you do the narrator to DBZ for me?'" And he did the narrator for about 20 minutes. He narrated me. He's like, "Now he's going
20
to the
minutes.
next stand." I have no idea if he remembers that. And I'm like,
That was so great.
he has a great sense of humor.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. And he used to be a DJ for Disney.
I had no idea.
Yeah, my son, on his 10th birthday, we went into the studio with Kyle, and we got to be in the studio with him while he was doing his job on Radio Disney. It was so cool. Yeah, he was a very gracious guy.
I am very envious. Well, I do have. Well, this is probably gonna spoil it for some of the fans. An interview with him coming up soon. So,
Ooh.
but I have actually been trying to get you on the show for a while. I was so excited when you finally messaged back.
Well, I mean, like finally logged into Facebook is really essentially what that is. I am so private. I mean, I feel like I'm pretty personable, but I like to keep it private. I mean, especially given how much drama that happens out there in on social media, people
Oh,
seeking social media for social mediation. I am not about that. Oh,
I am. I don't really like to talk about my personal life on Twitter or Facebook or anything. I'm just like, yeah. I
or
mainly talk
opinions
about
for that matter. I don't want to get shot down.
no.
Plus, I just don't think about it. I mean, like for those of us who are a little older, we didn't grow up with. I mean, I learned the keyboard on an electric typewriter. I mean, I was in college laughing at my roommate that had a word processor. You know, before they even had like those big boxy Macs that came out. You know, so I was around. I was already an adult, a working adult by the time that whole computer age. It was my my 30-year-old son, Tim Pike, who had computers in schools. I mean, that's such a big deal. So I feel like it's different for your generation than it is for mine. So like social media, I mean, like trying to keep up with MySpace.
Nobody uses it anymore.
Of course not. But I mean, at first, that's what we had. And it was like, how do we use this? That's where I got my first distaste, actually, was when some terrible things were happening with a fan club for me that had gotten started
Oh
by a
wow.
12-year-old, but then just got corrupted by a woman in Seattle who ended up sending me pictures of my own front door. I was not comfortable with that.
I
It was creepy, it was spooky, and just gave me a bad taste in my mouth from the very beginning. I mean, now I have an Instagram account, I have a Twitter account. I picked those up on my phone. I have no idea how to use them. I do. My son's tried to show me the ropes, and I just can't get it. I just put it back down.
I'm about the same, so don't
Are
feel
you
bad.
okay?
See, I lived with very strict parents that wouldn't let me have computers and stuff. So
Wow.
I am just learning how to work all this stuff in my 30s now, and that's very sad.
Really? Oh my goodness. So you didn't even have them in school?
Well, when we got to use them in school, we didn't use social media or stuff like
Oh, I
that.
see what you mean by social media. Okay, yeah.
We had to use learning process stuff, and learning how to
But you
do.
actually had a course in school to learn how to do that, though, right? In
Not really.
elementary school. My son had it in elementary school, and it seems commonplace now, but I mean,
They just
wow.
show you how to type, and me, I'm so old school that I just use one hand to type.
Just hunt and peck.
Yeah, and I
No, I
didn't
definitely know
listen.
keyboard.
It's just a very long, confusing process to me. Like, I'll ask a friend, like, "How do you do that?" And he'll explain it to me over and over, and it's like, um, what? I mean, I still have a VCR in my house. What does that tell
Wow. You have an N64?
you? Yes, actually. And I don't have a PS1, but I still have a Super Nintendo.
Wow.
I'm
Wow. A functioning one.
yes. Well, it functions. I just have to clean it every now and then to get it to work. 'Cause
Better than display quality. Something that
that's
you can actually use.
oh yeah. Well, I use it on like mainly to play older games like Chrono Trigger and stuff like that. I'm very old school, so
Well, I mean, look at your shirt. I mean, you're all the way down at the very beginning. The whole beginning of the American anime experience.
I mean,
Dragon Ball Z.
I actually did a video on my channel not long ago about a company called Streamline Pictures, and I think they were around a little before Funny was.
But it's this dip, but I feel like Funny was the one that just like really took it to the next level, don't you think?
Uh,
Maybe
yeah,
that's
they
just
did.
my perspective, but being here in Texas, it what at first was like, oh, you work at Funimation, became like, oh, you work at Funimation. Agents started to respect it and started putting those dubbing actors on their rosters and within their actor stable. So it became a different, more respected animal, and it's a big employer here. And people still move from out of state to come and work.
Oh yeah, they do.
Good. This is a good thing for Texas.
I think well, I actually appreciate Funimation for all that they gave, even some of the translation errors in the beginning. I was like, well, hey, they put in a lot of effort and work to make sure we got where we are today.
Hey, well, at one point we did go back for some of the latter episodes of Yu Yu Hakusho and re-record them in the new Funimation studios where they, I guess where they currently exist. They're about to move again. Um, but so that we could correct name pronunciations. Because, yeah, originally, even just beyond translation, just name pronunciations were not a big deal. We anglicized everything.
I,
But
I,
now
I
it's very different.
I think I remember some of the dialogue changes that aired on TV versus, I'm going on straight memory. I remember something like they were in the Dark Tournament to fight for world peace. Then on my DVD sets, they changed it was to kill Taguro.
Really? They just got decided to just go ahead and go with it.
Yeah,
Kill.
just go
Remember
with
with
kill.
words like that, and painting out the blood, in Dragon Ball Z, that was
Oh, yeah.
that was a big deal. Painting out the blood, painting on the clothes.
I remember that.
Because
Like,
watching the Japanese, we'd go, "Wow, they get to see that."
what's funny is just the editing process in general back in the late 90s, maybe mid 90s. It was just, fantastically. I think you guys actually saved Dragon Ball Z from the ocean dub, if in my opinion,
No,
because
why so?
the editing in the ocean dub was really bad. Like,
Was it? Because I don't know. I've never examined the work. It's not something that we were asked to even do before we started recording. It was just go, speak, actor.
well, what it was is they would just paint anything else out in the dialogue that they did to sugarcoat death. Like, remember in
Right.
The Namek saga, it showed a bunch of Namekians die,
Yeah.
and in the Ocean Dub version, it showed them laying on the ground breathing.
You had to sanitize everything. Wow. Even more so in Canada than here in the US.
I think it was because
Interesting.
Saban owned the rights to it and the Power Ranger
Okay.
company, and
Okay.
they were very pretentious on trying to get all that stuff.
Good word. Yes. Indeed. It is pretentious.
Yeah,
It's pretentious. It's not. It's good that's like, and it turns out it's like, well, I think they were also thinking like the fans or the watchers were going to be like elementary school children, and it turned out that's not the case. It was teenagers and people in their 20s or beyond,
Like
That's where the fandom really was, right?
oh
So
yeah.
it's interesting. They be, Y7 wasn't as significant, but it's also like the client, like for instance, Walmart. In order to sell your merch at Walmart, you had to meet a certain standard. So sometimes production is dependent upon what the ultimate client, demands. Whether that's Cartoon Network or Crunchyroll or at one time or Walmart or Target, or whomever. So sometimes it's about the other business entities that you're working with. It's not just it's not just a choice.
Oh yeah.
It's business.
It's just you got to do it this way if you want to get your vision aired or something.
Exactly. So it's always a balance. I feel like Funimation runs that balance between the clients, and then the clientele, if that's what you consider, the fans, making something that works for everybody, a broad appeal.
So here's my next question: what did you think of Deus from Future Diary?
That that was a surprise character. Uh, Zach Bolton, was really good about casting me in a lot of his shows. I felt really good about that. So I was surprised at the longevity of the character. It was such an unusual character, just his visage. I mean, uh, I kept trying to find his mouth sometimes. Like what is what am I looking at exactly? So, but I really enjoyed that character. Again, it was like I only got to work within that one realm. I didn't get to interact with all of the other characters, you know, um, and in their story arcs, for
Oh yeah.
instance. I got to play off Leah Clark's character all the time.
She's great too, isn't she?
I love Leah Clark.
Notice she's got a good sense of humor.
Oh, I think so.
I think what I have a what you call I could read sarcasm because I think I'm just living sarcasm. So
Did you
a
say
lot
you
of
can
people
read or you can breed sarcasm?
read and breed.
Read and breed, both. Okay. Truth be
Um,
told.
a lot of people get kind of offended by what she writes on Twitter. It's like, dude, she's just being sarcastic. She's just trying to be funny.
Oh, she truly is. I'm without even seeing it, because again, like I don't even know what you're referring to, but knowing Leah Clark,
That's exactly what I
trying to
said.
be funny, that's where I feel like I would end up saying something and getting myself in trouble.
Well, there's a lot of sensitive people in the world, so
True, and you can't control that, you know. And once you've said something and someone's reacted, that's it.
exactly. It's all it takes is just to get one person upset, and it's the end of the world.
Truthfully,
So, who are your top five favorite characters you've voiced?
um, it's not something we've discussed, but it's definitely Hattori Soma in Fruits Basket. And there's to the point. When we first recorded that show, it was Hattori Soma,
Oh,
and then we came back. It's Hattori in the reboot, with a little tapped R. So we had to change things up. That character, particularly because that show in particular, my son was in that show. He played the young version of Jerry Jules' character, Kyo, in the last couple of episodes. So that show is very important to me. I love Mao from Darker Than Black, because
yep.
I got to play a cat. And then in the season 2, he was a mamanga, a flying squirrel. So I just love that. And I felt like I got some really good lines from that piece. Um, Father, probably because of the series. Um, I loved doing Chu from Yu Yu Hakusho, because I got to use an Aussie accent. That was real fun being able to use that. Gosh, it's so hard to pick. I bet there's a lot of actors you interview that say, like, it's like trying to choose a favorite child, but
Yes.
it kind of is, because you like different roles and different shows for different reasons. Also, Momoka from why can't I suddenly I can't remember Shangri-La. It's another one that has like a broader title, but because that was a transgender character, I really loved being able to do that.
That's actually really awesome too, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I did get a nomination, an award nomination out of that one. So that one was really special. So it's yeah, different roles for different reasons, but
And
did I
that
get
actually,
five? You asked for five.
you gave me five. That's actually brings me up to another thing. I did not know you were Chew. Today, I just learned that.
Yep. Chew in that show, right?
Yeah, I had no idea that was you. I've watched,
Surprise.
I've watched Yu Yu Hakusho. That's probably one of my most viewed series too. It's in my top 10 favorite animes of all time.
I think I got to do that because he had an accent, because it was, an Australian dialect. So it was, and I remember Justin diving in online to research special Australian phrases, so that we would pepper the script with some of that. Even after it came to him, he would change the writing. I mean, that was the one thing, is like the directors would always change the writing up a little bit.
In my opinion, there's nothing wrong with that. Trying to make it a little easier so other people can understand.
Well, if you're the writer and it's your work that's being, chopped up, you feel a little differently. Or I think
Well,
they do. But now, I mean, just the writing has to happen at such a pace because there's so much material. Gosh, it's got to be a nightmare to do. That's something I've never jumped into. Some actors, went into directing or went into script writing, and that's not something I jumped into. So I don't know what it's like. Leah, brought up Leah, but she's a writer now, but she had also directed, and of course she still does. She still acts.
oh yeah, I think I just seen her in a series. Which, see, I'm very late to the game when I watch series. I watch it a few years after it's been released. I think I heard her in Tokyo Ghoul.
Oh, no doubt. I think, again, that was a show that we all took some characters in. I was in Tokyo Ghoul, and you
Yep,
mentioned another favorite of mine is one of my newer characters, Mr. Compress from My Hero Academia. I'm so happy. All Funimation actors are like, please, Colleen, cast us in that special new show that
I
kind of
I
rivals Dragon Ball Z, doesn't it? I mean, Dragon Ball Z heretofore has been one of the only shows that could have its own signature convention, but I want to
I
say that
have
they're
I
much.
have not seen it yet.
Well, don't spoil yourself. I mean, you don't have to.
I'm thinking about giving it a shot. I just take a while. I'm a procrastinator really bad when it comes to watching stuff. I have stuff on my shelf that I haven't watched yet.
Well, if you talk about social media, I'm definitely a procrastinator. I'm super late to the game.
Well, I think you were fantastic on actually reaching back to me.
Totally. Well, see, I mean, the day that I did was the day that I signed back on in what, after a year, 2 years? I mean, it's like that. And it was just like all the message screens, those little screens just populating on my screen. But your name I recognize, so I got I
It's like
got back to you.
it's the edit guy. I know him.
Well, and also we had an exchange before. You had sent me some material, and I sent you something. So I love that.
Yeah, I think. Well, I still haven't got it done yet. I have to work on your mug that I
You're
was
telling
working on.
yourself, oh, okay. You know what? Now that you brought it up, I was going to ask about that because I saw a picture. I swear it was Huber with
Yep,
his mug. Okay, I want
and
my mug, man.
I'll mug you. Don't worry.
That should be my reward.
Oh, of course. Well, see, I've been working on it slowly, but I couldn't get your address to send it. So I was like, well, where
Well,
is
and
he?
like I mentioned before, like I had a bad experience with MySpace and fans and where I live, and like I just have a weird feeling about that. So I try not to give away my home address. But I think I gave mine to you, or did I give you my agents?
You gave me your agents, and then they sent you stuff,
Yeah,
and
some
then
people would do the agent. Okay, so I gave you the agent. Yeah, and I remember I did have to go pick something up, and I can't remember how I returned it. I mean, that was even pre-COVID, so that was really a long time ago.
Self-addressed stamped envelope. That's what I did.
Is that what you did? Okay,
Hmm.
so smart to do. Not everybody does that.
No, some people are like, "Will you sign this?" No envelope.
Yeah, and I've said that, and now that we have Venmo, I can say, look, if you just want to skip the convention that I'm going to be at, then okay, but it's going to be this, and then whew, I don't hear from him again.
Though me, you'll probably hear from quite a bit. I'm a talker, so I like to talk.
Well, and once you get me talking, I talk too. Otherwise, I'm pretty much just like an invisible, quiet person.
Pretty
I've
much.
joked that
If
I need a business card that says urban hermit. I just
maybe
stay to
maybe
myself.
instead of Mike, you should have played Master Roshi.
Ah, the chatterbox.
Oh yeah, the hermit, the hermit.
Oh, I know you're the hermit, but I mean, he was very chatty, right?
I don't think he was super chatty,
Oh, not
but
super chatty, but the hermit. Okay.
he
See,
was
once
also
again, like,
he was a pervert though. So there you go. I'm terrible.
I don't want to say.
I'm just naming off his flaws. Don't mind me.
Just as long as they're not echoing mine.
No, I promise. Would I lie? Anyway, is there any particular shows you didn't like doing the voice on?
Well, that's I don't even think so. I've done such a variety. Like I don't even know if I care for the villains versus the good guys. I don't know. I mean, both have their merits. All the shows, and it wouldn't because I didn't like the show or didn't like the character. It would be because I didn't like something I had to do. Romeo X Juliet, I had to burn to death, and scream. And it's just like, I just don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I did it, but it was hard.
It's like, give me water when you're done.
Oh, more than that. Give me a week's rest. I mean, that stuff. I mean, when you knock your, I don't know how Chris Sabat can can survive recording all of his DBZ characters when he has to. He has I don't even know what the schedule is for him, but he has to give himself some time to heal. That is a lot.
Oh man, I noticed that too because it's like most of his characters are yelling and screaming. It's like, oh my
Yes.
god. It's like, how do these guys get through it? These guys are miracle workers having to get through all that
Well, and
yelling
then
and
Yu
screaming.
Yu Hakusho came along, and it was the same way. The third property, Fruits Basket. That's where we learned, like, oh wow, this can be more. This can be so much milder, and there's not bloody fight scenes, all the time. We learned what anime could also be, with the advent of that show.
And I've only seen the original dub to Fruits Basket, so I need to check into that.
How it's. I mean, we're in season 3 right now, recording that. I just love it.
Then there is anime like Case Closed, which I know you were part of.
Yeah.
So what do you how do you feel about it getting redubbed?
Oh, I mean, like, are you telling me something that maybe I don't already know? Is it getting a redub?
Yeah, it is. I think the LA talent pool is redoing the episodes now.
Interesting.
I
Not
think.
outside Funimation.
Yeah,
Another studio.
I think because that
Fair
I mean,
game. Fair game. If it brings more audiences in, I mean, it's just good for all of us. I mean, ultimately, what we like is to be able to retain the characters. Like, in Fruits Basket reboot, they didn't have to rehire me as the character that I originated. They could have gone with somebody, in that age range. Because after all, it is a guy like I'm 50. I'm almost 57 this year, and that guy's more like 27. So it's kind of unusual that I play somebody that much younger than me.
well,
I'm not one of the actors known for being able to play young, not like the Vic Mignonas, out there that can get away. Their voices just work for that.
oh yeah, definitely. When I seen when I found out some of the characters he's voiced, like Broly, and then I find out later he was another character on Birder and Kai, I was like, these two sound nothing alike. And
Yeah, he's got a range.
his vocal cords must feel like, oh heck, after he got done recording Broly.
I don't know, because he was a musician, a singer, a speaker. He was recording, I mean, well before Funimation, so he had a career doing just that. So I feel like he was more um adept. I came at it from the stage and from the classroom, doing both, just trying to make a living here in Dallas, in arts poor Texas. Whew, is hard.
Oh, I can imagine. I, well, I've actually heard stories from him himself. He says, Broly is the worst thing he's ever done for his voice because he said he would have to keep ice cold water on hand in sessions.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then I said, well, I can imitate Broly's voice, but that's from me watching way too much TV. That's how I learned to do Mercenary Tao's voice. I don't know if that was good or not, but I tried.
Just getting that nasal sound in there. I mean, if you can figure it out, I mean, that's good. There's nothing wrong with that. I hear people, if I'm at a con, I hear people, trying out my own voices on me all the time.
I mainly learned to do Mercenary Tao's voice because I would just shout it all the time. Dodon Ray!
Yeah, I got to say that a lot. Reach for the ice water.
Oh, that's actually one of my favorite Dragon Ball attacks.
Is it really?
Yeah, I don't know.
From the game too. You mentioned Budokai before.
Mm-hmm. I have almost all the original Budokai Tenkaichi games. I wish they would get a release to the PS4.
I bet Funimation would too. There was a game that I did the Supreme Kai for earlier this year, in February. I don't know. It's always a question as to when you can name a title for something, but as early as this year, I've still recorded a character that I had on that show, on that series, on that franchise. Still recording. Like what? 20 years later?
Wow. And honestly, your voice doesn't sound like it's aged, if that makes you feel good.
Oh, that does make me feel good.
Because some voice actors, like, not to hurt his feelings, Damian Clark, who I absolutely love, I could tell there was a big difference in his voice from the original Z-dub versus Kai when he redid Cell.
Well, and see, we're all kind of like that. I was worried about that for Supreme Kai and Elder Kai. Elder Kai, not so much, but Supreme Kai, I was worried that I wasn't going to be able to get that same youthful quality that I had before. And I had mentioned, we had gone back and corrected some name pronunciation correction for Yu Yu Hakusho in latter episodes. And just listening to myself do George, it was so hard voice matching myself. Just being just that many years having passed. Age makes a difference. So interesting.
I couldn't tell a difference. I do love him, but I could tell a difference. Like, I could tell his voice was maybe slightly deeper. I'm known for hearing that in people's voices.
It sounds like you do have a good ear for it. I mean, if people are, how do you know? Then you have that ear. I don't have that kind of ear. I cannot discern voices. I cannot divine them from, like I can't listen to radio or TV ads and realize that that's a voice actor who also did something else. My ex-wife, yes, but not I.
Now, I will say that one voice actor who is completely missed is the voice of Fury King Brad.
Oh, you froze up. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Froze up for a second there. Okay, you froze up for a second.
It was your Dodon Ray.
Something I will never. Doesn't matter who it is. It could be the president of the United States asking me to do that voice again. Not happening because it's too painful.
Anyway,
and hit play.
Yeah, it was like reuse footage.
Yes.
One
Roll
voice
tape.
actor though that I think is really completely missed in Funimation. I can't remember his name right now. Is the voice of Fura King Bradley from Full Metal Alchemist? I I'll have to look it up.
I know it's just a Google away, right?
I can't remember. I think it was Ed Baylock. That's his name.
I recognize that name now. I don't
He
even think that's someone I ever actually met person to person.
he did the voice of King Bradley. He had always this really I can't explain it. The way his voice sounded, it had like a genuine kindness to it. But then when he would do the serious parts to King Bradley, it could scare you.
Yeah, that's somebody I Ed Blaylock. Ed Blaylock. I recognize the name. I can wait a minute. I may be wrong. I kind of see him in my mind. Gosh, it's so. That was definitely a long time ago, and I don't know if he's somebody that endured, that followed Funimation on later and later and later.
Yeah, because he was in Tokyo Ghoul. He just did cameo scenes though.
Okay, bit rolls.
Same with Bryce, who was also really missed too. Bryce Armstrong.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that just shows you how much competition there is. I mean, new actors, now with new tech, they're able to record people in Los Angeles, and Funimation has studios in Los Angeles now. So it's just like the actor base just exploded. So we have to compete with so many more people. That's why, like, when aspiring actors say, "Hey, can you give me, the tips?" No, I am not promoting my own competition. Go away. So I hope no fan is ever too upset, about that, because it's a deal. You don't want to promote your own competition because we're out there to make a living doing it.
Yeah, and you guys worked super hard too, and you were one of the first ones out there too.
Yeah, me, Sabat, Justin Cook, Wendy Powell, a lot of us, Cynthia Kranz. I mean, those of us that still know each other, that were there in the earliest days.
Oh yeah.
I was performing on stage with Laura Bailey when I sent her in for the one of the two, the androids that Dr. Giraud created. With her, was doing a stage show with her, but then Meredith McCoy, I had just taught in a class. So I sent them both into audition. Of course, Meredith got the role, and Laura was so upset. But you see what the history is for her. I said, Laura, that you just weren't right for that part. I said, there are going to be more roles. And then she got that. Travis Willingham, when he was 10 years old, he was in an acting class of mine. So it's a lot of paths have crossed.
Well, like I said with Laura, I mean, she got to play Kid Trunks. I mean, and then she got to move on to Lust.
And then.
Oh, I mean, it happens. There were some voices on DBZ. I wondered where they went. Like Dale Kelly, I have no idea where he went. He was the original narrator, like I was telling you before.
And I was not one of the first, because I came in with Dr. Giraud, so I wasn't even one of the first actors that came in. Sonny Strait was already there. Mike McFarland was already in. They were recording those roles. John Bergmeyer. So I was in another class that rolled into the studio at the time. As they brought more and more people in, and
you were the new kid then.
I made it. I was the new kid at the time.
Oh yeah, I well, see, since I own the old VHS stuff, I always ask these questions like,
amazing.
Why do they change the voices? Which I found out online thanks to an interview that Dale did why he left, but he never really clarified it.
It was his choice. Is that
No.
what he said? It was his. Oh, it was not his choice.
No, the way he said it, it sounded like he got angry or something, and then they just told him not to come back.
Wow.
And then
I've only gotten upset once, and I walked out of studio once, angry. I didn't leave the building. I came back in. I just had to leave the studio, leave the booth to cool off, and then came back in.
Well, I think he didn't come back, or they didn't let him back. And I think something similar also happened to what was the name of the music writer for the American score? Faulkner.
Okay.
I've heard
No,
stories about him.
don't know. Because again, just no interaction, just somebody coming in. Those of us who are actors, we don't really work for Funimation. We're contract talent, that comes in, and we're only interacting with two people, the director and the engineer,
And
and then we go away.
like you said, you're one of the first people to record dialogue, so you don't actually get to hear the English version.
Oftentimes. Today I was recording in a studio called Sound Cadence for another Funimation property, with Damon Mills, and I got to hear some other voices in there, and I was just so tickled. I was like, yes. I always mention it because it's such a rarity. Because we always listen to the Japanese. We hear the Japanese before we come back in with our own, before we lay anything down ourselves. But when I hear an English voice, wait a minute, do that again.
It's like, hallelujah.
Yes, such a rarity.
Anyway, I want to say thanks so much for coming on to this show.
You're so welcome. It was a pleasure. This has been really engaging, really fun for me, especially during this time of COVID. Like, we don't even have to wear masks.
Okay, I'll put one on. No,
I know, right?
Anyway, is there anything you want to say before I close out?
No, just thank you. I hope everybody watching is just really enjoying the rapport, the dialogue, and hope to spur on future interviews, as this continues to be a part of all of our lives. It's great. I love it. Thank you for the opportunity.
This endless darkness, won't you come on?